What's up, everybody? Welcome to Move the Sticks, presented by Grifols Plasma Donation Centers. DJ, Bucky, back together again. Buck, we've got a big weekend of football. We've got some college championship games. We've got a great NFL slate. Actually, a really intriguing Thursday night football matchup this evening. But you've got your big state playoff game this weekend, and it's just that time of year, man. It just feels it's real football time right now. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great, DJ. It is that time of year, and you know, we can talk about like the pros and college and that stuff, and even like my high school stuff. Like, that's really fun. But I don't know if you know this about me. Years ago, when I was 14, I played on a national champion Pop Warner team. And so youth football is near and dear to my heart. So I'm just hoping today that we can bring somebody on who knows a little bit about how to get it done at a youth football level, because we talk about having those other things covered, but youth football is where it's at. So maybe you can kind of help us find somebody that can lend some expertise to being able to win at the lower levels.
I've got great news for you, because you didn't know this, but I've secured a guest is actually a Pop Warner coach who's got a chance to go chase a title right now. We're able to hunt this down, do some research, and found one. So we're going to go ahead and bring him in right now. He also, I think he played in the NFL maybe for a minute or two. Luke Kuechly, yeah, I think he did. He had a little bit of success in the NFL, but we'll get to all the NFL stuff in a minute. Luke, welcome to the show, buddy. We want to know, first and foremost, start this thing off right, what you and Greg Olson are up to, and what do we need to do to chase a championship in Orlando?
Well, it sounds like Bucky's got the secret. He said he already won one. We're heading down to Orlando this weekend for the Pop Warner Championship. It's going to be a ton of fun. We play at Camping World Stadium. It's going to be super exciting for the kids. I'm looking forward to it. Greg and I have been trying to figure out what our defensive game plan is going to be the past 24 hours in anticipation of going down there. But it's exciting. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. The weather's going to be a lot different down there in Florida than it is in Charlotte right now. So hopefully our kids, our coaches, all of us are ready to rock.
That should be a lot of fun, Luke. Like, how long have you been coaching youth ball? And I have to ask you this because you've dealt with the complexity of being in the pros. How long did it take you to figure out how to simplify things so that your little guys can understand exactly what you're asking them to do?
Yeah, we got started back in July, and we had all these ideas of, all right, we're going to be a 4-down front. We're going to have pressures from both sides and up the middle, and it all sounded good. We had it all in. All the kids were great. The first game comes around and we got whacked. We weren't ready for it. The defense did not work how I expected it to. So the next week we came back and we just went to a traditional 5-down front and set some good edges and let our guys run around and play football. And it was so funny. I was talking to Greg about it yesterday of when I was playing in Carolina, I always loved it when we were simple on defense. Let us line up. Let us get a look at the offense. Let us go play. And I always got frustrated when it was complicated and we had all these shifts and motions and rotations and checks. And then I start to go coach this little youth football team, and then I'm doing the same thing. I like looks, rotations, different blitzes. The first game didn't go well. It wasn't the kids' fault at all. I thought this stuff would come together great, and it didn't. And then the next week we come out, we go to a more traditional front, we were good to go. So it's just funny how it mimics the NFL, even though it's 11-year football. Simple is easy is good. Let the guys go out there and play.
I have to imagine, I've been around the youth football world a little bit, that you get some opponents and some opposing coaches that are absolutely jonesing to try and take down the two NFL guys on the opposite sideline. Have you had any interesting experiences with opposing coaches this year?
No, we've been in really good shape. It's been fun. You see a lot of the coaches around, though. So we had a scrimmage earlier in the year. We met one of the coaches on one of the opposing teams. That was a really good team. That was the Police Athletic League here. They had good players. They were athletic. They had a good scheme. So we met the coach there. We had a preseason scrimmage against him in the Panther Stadium, and it was a little bit scary when some of those kids got in space because we're like, uh-oh, these kids, we haven't seen any kids like this all year. And then we played that same team again in the city championship game. So we had a great time with all the coaches, but that coach from that team was great. We met him early in the season. We had a scrimmage against him, and then we played him in the city championship game, and he was he couldn't have been better. He was great to us. He gave us a lot of encouragement moving forward. But man, it was a great experience. Greg's dad helped coach too. He coached forever in Jersey and a ton of success up there at Wayne Hills. So we had a good crew of coaches, and it was a ton of fun for us.
Oh, well, now this is easy because, like, I'm sure you're paying attention to the National Football League, and the new trend is take someone who's coached at a lower level and give them a head coaching job. So now you can follow in the footsteps of my buddy Jeff Saturday, and you're ready. You're ready to be an NFL head coach. I mean, you're doing it at the youth level, so you might as well try your hand at it. Would you,
Oh my gosh.
if you had an opportunity, like seriously, like, would you think about ever being a head coach in the National Football League?
I think it would be a ton of fun. You know what I miss about the NFL? I miss about being around the guys in the locker room, at practice, all the relationships that you have with the guys, with the people that work there, the people, the front office people, the support staff, the trainers, the coaches, the weight room guys, the equipment guys. That's what I miss the most. And I think being a head coach would give you that opportunity to get back in the stadium, but I don't know if I could handle that right now. I got my hands full trying to figure out what defense we're going to play this week when we go down to Florida. But the game of football is so special, and any way to get back in that building would be a ton of fun.
It's interesting you talk about coaching, Luke. I went back through, and we've talked about it before, went back and looked through your report. And I can only remember 2 players I ever evaluated in college as they're getting ready to enter the NFL that I actually put in my report, this guy would be a great head coach. It was you, and it was DeMeco Ryans. Now, DeMeco Ryans has got the 49er defense playing at an elite level. He's going to be a head coach this next year. Look, if you ever wanted to go down that path, I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities for you. But I want to transition a little bit and get your thoughts on some of the stuff that's going on in the league right now, because you're such a great resource for us. When you look around the league right now, we've talked about it a lot, about this league being obsessed with taking away explosives. We've seen so many light box counts now. Now you're starting to see it trend back where teams are starting to run the football more. The running game has kind of reemerged in the NFL at this point in time. Did you notice that during your time in the league, how things they never go away? It just feels like things are constantly cycling around.
Yeah, and it's a cause and effect thing. So when I first got in, it was 21 personnel running the ball, 2-back sets, 12 personnel running the ball, throwing play action off of it. And that honestly was really good for me early in my career because I felt like that's what I did really well. And then as time progressed, especially within our division, you know, Sean Payton always had the guy out of the backfield. You know, then he had Sproles, and then he had Kamara, and then you look at what Atlanta was able to do with Freeman, and then down in Tampa, they always had a dude that they could get the ball to in space. So early in my career, it was downhill football. Then it slowly transitioned to more of that spread game. And then, like you said, a lot of that Fangio defenses started to kind of kick back in where you're showing different looks. You're playing too high. You're daring them to run the ball. You're tackling it for 4.5 yards and saying, hey, run it again, or you're going to throw it, and you're going to throw it right into us. And then now slowly people have kind of gotten away from throwing the ball down the field. And like you said, now it's pound the ball, control the clock. That's what we did in Carolina last week against Denver. That really good defense, that split safety with the rotation down. We ran the ball like 40 times for 4.5 yards a carry, controlled the clock, took a couple calculated shots. I think everybody moves off of each other. So offense dictates, defense changes. Once defense changes and has success, the offense has to come back around and reinvent themselves. So scoring's been down in the league this year from the last couple of years, and I think a lot of it has to do with how people are controlling the ball, running the football, throwing more play action off of it.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, plenty more to get to with Pop Warner coaching legend Luke Kuechly. All right, we're back with Luke Kuechly. And Luke, I want to hit you on a couple more NFL topics here before we transition and do some scouting talk, which I'm really looking forward to. But we've talked about this throughout the year. It feels like when you look around the league this year, I know you've got Kansas City, you've got Buffalo. I know Philly, their record is what it is. You see Dallas starting to surge a little bit. But it really feels like it's kind of just getting the tournament year. Just find your way, get in the tournament. Anything can happen once you get there. You remember during your time in the league where that was the case, where you thought, man, we might not be a great team, but I don't know if there is a great team out there. Guys, we just got to find a way to get in the playoffs, and we'll take our chances once we get there.
Absolutely. That's how we kind of were in 2014. We won 7-8-1 and snuck into the playoffs. Our division was really down. We got a home game and won a game. And so I think there's that side of it. Then I also think teams that are leading divisions, they start looking around like, all right, who are the teams that are leading the divisions? Okay, we're going to win the division. Who are we going to play in a wild card? And then you start looking around, and you're like, man, I hope that team continues to lose. I think San Francisco was that team earlier in the year. Obviously, they've kind of started to really get it going and kick it into gear, but that would be a team that you'd look at and you'd be like, man, I don't want to play them the first round of the playoffs. They'd be an absolute disaster to play against. They're super good on defense. They play really well on offense. They can run the ball. And you kind of look at it now, that's like what the NFC East looks like. Philly, Dallas, New York, and then obviously Washington. I think Philly and Dallas will be one of those teams that'll win that division. But could you imagine winning your division, getting a home game, and then drawing Philly or Dallas to play them week one in the playoffs? I think that would be a disaster. You wouldn't want to do that at all. Same thing with the AFC East with Buffalo and Miami. One of those teams is going to be a wild card. And all these teams that look around where they've tried so hard to win their division, they get the home game and boom, now you have Tua in that offense coming to you for the first round of the playoffs. It's a disaster. So this time of the year, you kind of get into December, the playoffs start to kind of take shape. And then you're like, man, who could we potentially play? And I think there's a couple teams around the NFL this year. They're like, if we draw that team the first round of the playoffs, we're not feeling great about it.
Luke, I want to lean on your expertise because you played on playoff teams. You listed out two different scenarios in terms of how your team has gone into the postseason. If a head coach asked you heading into December, how can I get my team to play the best football heading down the stretch? What advice would you give them?
At this point in the season, I think it's all about guys being healthy, right? For the most part, all these teams that are playing good football and have good records are going to be in the playoffs. I think they understand what they are, what their identity is, how they're playing on defense, all their responsibilities. But then once you get to December and then in the January in the playoffs, it's who's the healthiest team out there, who feels the best, who's got most of their guys around and healthy. And then going into the playoffs, guys just need to be healthy. They need to feel fast. They need to feel explosive. You don't want to limp into the playoffs and then beat your chest and say, hey, we're in, but half of my guys are banged up. We're not going to be able to make a run. Or would you rather be the team that, hey, our guys are healthy, we took them out of pads, maybe we've got a lot more walkthroughs, guys are locked in during the week, show up on Sundays and get it done. And I think that's what we did a really good job with in Carolina was that 2015 season, the year we went to the Super Bowl. We were really light at practice. Guys were locked in. We had a lot of older guys. We knew what we were on offense and defense. And we had such productive practices Wednesday, Thursday, Friday without going full speed because we understood, hey, if we get our good mental reps in, if we get our good looks in, and we take this thing seriously, we don't have to put pads on. We don't have to put our helmet on. We don't have to run fast. We don't have to go hit guys. And not only does that kind of calm you down physically, but I think it also gives you a break mentally. The only thing I have to worry about at practice right now is my alignment. Where do I got to be? What do I got to do? You don't have to worry about, man, like I'm going to have to go chase this guy. Got to put my hands on this guy. It's just one less thing that you got to worry about as a player. So it's, hey, boom, I'm going to go out here. I'm going to get my reps. I'm going to recover mentally, but I'm also going to recover physically because I know when it gets into January, it's a 1 week at a time season. Win and continue, lose and go home. So, and then you can really crank it back up that week going to the playoffs. But I think in December, you have so many guys that get banged up throughout the season that, boom, if I can really capitalize on these last 4 weeks, our guys understand what's going on, and I can get everybody healthy going into the playoffs, I think that puts you in the best position moving into January.
How was postseason ball different? I mean, your first playoff game, everybody talks about the adjustment you make from high school to college or from your college to the NFL and starting as a rookie. But what was it like in your first postseason game, and how was it different than just a regular season game?
Yeah, the first postseason game that we played was 2013. We had a home game against San Francisco. San Francisco, the year before, was in the Super Bowl. They played Baltimore, so they had been there and done it. They had been in the playoffs before. That whole roster was basically back. I was going into my second year, and I just remember all the older guys. We had older guys in our team that had been in the playoffs. And they're like, it's going to be faster, it's going to be more physical, and there's going to be a different energy in the game. And I was like, okay, sure. Like, I've gone from preseason to regular season, I understand that. But then you get in there, and I'm telling you what, man, it's different. I think a lot of the reason it's different is because each play matters that much more. And you can't just slip up and give up a 35-yard gain and then them kick a field goal and 3 points. You can't be like, hey, we got to stop. It's like, no, like those are 3 points that we're now going to have to get on the offensive side of the ball. And to me, the energy was different in the sense of each play matters. You got to play each play as hard as you can. You're not taking plays off. Every time the ball gets run outside, I'm sprinting there because you don't know if somebody's going to miss a tackle and you got to clean it up. Or the same thing applies for the guys on offense too, that every route's got to be right. Every depth's got to be right. You got to fight for every yard you can get. Penalties are big. That's what killed us in that first game, were penalties, and just not – I wasn't ready for that moment as a second-year player. I was excited. We were in the playoffs. We had a home game. We had a first-round bye. Everything was rolling. And then it's like, man, it happens faster. The guys are more physical. The game plan, I felt like, was a lot tighter on San Fran's side. They said, we're going to line up. We're going to run the ball at your face. We're going to take a couple shots. Kaepernick's going to pull the ball and get on the edge. That was the biggest difference to me. Guys were playing faster, more physical, but every play there was just that added pressure that you never know when that play in the game is going to happen that's going to dictate either a win or a loss.
You know, and thinking about that, because postseason ball is where legends are made. And so much of the game is about quarterback play. In your estimation, what's the difference between those great quarterbacks in the postseason and those guys that simply are unable to get it done?
I think not being afraid to make a mistake. You know, sometimes you gotta fit a ball in there. Sometimes you gotta throw it. I never obviously played quarterback, so I don't know what it was like for those guys, but I knew going into that second year. So my first year, we played San Francisco, and after about the first quarter, I was like, all right, I got beat by Vernon Davis for a touchdown in the end zone. And I remember he ran a 7 route. This was like a goal line play. And I remember watching him. I was connected to him, and he was right on the end line of the end zone. And I remember thinking, boom, I'll just push him out of bounds. Then that way he can't catch the ball. The play's dead. Then I can pick up somebody else and go make a play on the ball. And I remember thinking in my head, it happened so fast. I was like, man, if I push him too hard and then they throw a flag, then it's pass interference, and then they're going to get the ball on the 1 yard line, 1st and 10. And I didn't make that play. I very well could have pushed him out, and he ended up catching the ball, and that was the difference in the game. Then you fast forward to the next year, we played Arizona at home, and I played really well, and I think a lot of it had to do with me saying, I'm in the playoffs, I'm going to make plays, I'm going to make them call stuff, and I'm going to go play my game and take chances and be confident with what I'm doing and take calculated risks. I think that was the biggest difference for me. I'm sure it's probably very similar for a lot of positions in quarterback as well, where it's, hey, you get into the playoffs, go play your game, don't be afraid of the moment. And I think that was one thing that from that first year to the second year was going with the mindset of, hey, I'm here to make plays, I'm not here to make mistakes. And I think that's what switched for me going in from my second year to my third year in the playoffs.
No, I love that, man. To me, it's like you watch a game and you'll see it in big moments. You'll see teams that play a little bit scared, a little bit tight, a little bit conservative, and you'll see teams maybe take a risk, be a little bit aggressive, push the envelope. It seems like more often than not, those are the teams that absolutely end up getting rewarded. All right, we're going to take another quick break. We come back, we're going to talk about some scouting ideas and get some thoughts from Luke as we continue on here with the former All-Pro, Luke Kuechly. NFL Plus is here, which means no matter where you are, this is how you football. With NFL Plus, watch live, local, and primetime games on mobile and listen to live game audio now through Super Bowl 57. Sign up for the rest of the season with a special offer of $19.99 by going to plus.nfl.com and sign up now. All right, this is what I've been looking forward to in our visit with Luke Kuechly, talking about some scouting and always trying to learn and grow in what we're doing. Luke, last time we visited, we asked you for a stat that would be a good one where we're watching off-the-ball linebackers and something we could dig into a little bit. You talked about tackles for loss or tackles for no gain. And, you know, I was looking through, and it was, ironically, the linebackers leading the NFL right now in TFLs or tackles for no gain off-the-ball linebackers, Matt Milano, who's playing for a guy in Sean McDermott that you already referenced a little bit earlier here. But I love that in trying to identify things that maybe other people are missing. So I want to give you the opportunity. Could be a stat, could be anything just from a skill set standpoint with where you see where the game is going as we forecast in the future. What's something that maybe we're missing when you're evaluating off-the-ball linebackers?
Oh man, so I think everybody looks at interceptions, obviously, but I don't think people always look at passes defended from guys coming out, and I think that is a big metric. Not only because it's the same thing as a no game play; it's a batted ball, first and 10 to second and 10. But I also think it shows that guys have a feel for coverage, and they're also always around the ball. And I think that's something that I think would be important. Everybody can look at tackles, height, weight, speed, but passes defended not only dictate a no-gain play, but it shows that the guy's got ability to be around the ball. He can play in coverage, and especially now with the way the league has transferred, all these backers have to be able to, if you're a weak side backer, you got to be able to cover a back out of the backfield, whether it's, a Christian, a Saquon, those type of guys, or if you're a Mike backer, kind of like Tremaine Edmonds, the guy in Buffalo next to Milano, you got to be able to cover Kelsey and Kittle and guys like, back when I was playing, Olsen. The game's changing, and we talked about the run game a little bit, but the ability to play in coverage and limit obvious, third down conversions, easy first down throws, make it second and short. That passes defended stat for me is a big one.
It's funny you bring that up because so much of the game is about trying to create mismatches, and the linebackers are the ones who are frequently picked on. So expanding upon that thought, when you're looking at Mike linebackers or you're looking at linebackers, off-the-ball linebackers, what are the traits that I need to look for to determine if a linebacker might have the ability to be really good in coverage?
Well, the one guy that I always think about that I played with was Thomas. Thomas was one of the best, I think, to ever do that. I think it started with just his numbers, right? He was a 4.4 guy, and he had really good length, and I think that was one thing that helped him a lot. Anybody that's got speed and length can cover up a lot. I think he had a really good feel for routes, and I think he was he was physical. So at the top end of the route, and he was physical and strong. At the top end of the route, guys couldn't push off of him. You get up to him, and he was just like a magnet. He would stay stuck on you. He could convert. He could get his hands out, and he was very good with staying in phase. So a lot of these guys, they're going to come up. They're going to try to stem you. They're going to try to break away from leverage. Thomas had a great feel and was really never out of position. He felt comfortable in his ability to get vertical with his speed. He had good length to kind of convert, but his ability to stay strong and play physical through contact, through hand fighting, through pushing off, allowed him to get back in phase on that tight end. So if a guy comes up, he runs an outside breaking route, TD could stay with him vertically because of his speed. He had a great feel for the move zone. And then when that guy would push off of him and convert outside, TD had enough strength and play speed and just overall like snap and power coming out of breaks that he was easily able to get caught up. But I think everybody can have height, weight, speed, their eyes or length. But the most important thing when you watch a guy is when there's a little bit of separation created, what does he do? Does he freak out? Does he put his eyes on the quarterback, or does he put his eyes on the receiver and connect to him? Because that was something that I had to figure out early on in my career was if a guy creates separation, you must connect to him before you look back. And I think that was something that Thomas always did a really good job of. If he did create some separation, he'd put his eyes on the hips of his receiver, connect to him, get in phase, and then look back. So I think the obvious characteristics of height, weight, speed, strength at the top end of the route, how well he can get out of a break and convert. But once that guy does create separation, how does he connect back to him? And I think your eyes and putting your eyes on that receiver are big, because if you put your eyes back on the quarterback, that just gives them another opportunity to create another yard or two of separation. These guys are so good now that they're just going to put it right on them.
I think it's fascinating. So while you guys were talking about that, I actually pulled up just forced incompletions, and I sorted it by linebackers. So number one in the league is Devin White, who was a big time. Everybody knew he was a big time player coming out. He's been that player with Tampa, and somebody that has incredible change of direction, quickness. Combine that with some of the athleticism that he has, and then you look at next in line is T.J. Edwards from the Eagles, who is somebody that's always relied on instincts, outstanding instincts. And then right behind him, you get a couple names in Quay Walker, young guys. Quay Walker, a rookie, and Devin Lloyd, a rookie. Both guys who were super long and rangy.
Yeah.
And you could see both those guys. I mean, Devin Lloyd had a bunch of picks at Utah. You could see Quay Walker, how he was used when George was blowing the doors off everybody, what he could do in coverage. So it's kind of all those skills, Luke, like you were talking about, all coming together with those guys. And that next breed, we've talked about it a little bit on here, of the length of off-the-ball linebackers being a big-time factor in the passing game. And now, I mean, USC, if you see them play on Friday night, they have one of the most unique-looking players. They have a 6'6", like 210-pound off-the-ball linebacker, Eric Gentry. I don't know if you've seen him, Buck. He transferred from Arizona State. I mean, he looks like he's a string bean out there. He has the wing. He looks like Kevin Durant out there at the second level. And when you're playing all these spread teams and they're throwing all over the place, man, that length is a huge asset with kind of where the game is and where it's going.
Yeah, absolutely. They cover guys by just being big. And, I spent some time up in Buffalo with Tremaine Edmonds, and it's like, buddy, like, you are so big, you are so long, you're so tall and wide that just with your length, you cover so much ground. You can let a tight end get a little bit on top of you on a vertical route because you're 6'5", you put your arm up in the air, you're 7'5". You cover so much space just by being long. And I think guys that understand kind of, hey, this is the amount of space I can take up on the field. It allows them to take more risks. But with all this like little quick 3-step drop, spacing concepts, space gets eaten up really quickly with these guys that have really good length. Tremaine Edmonds, like you said, the kid from SC, Devin Lloyd, all these young guys that are so long. And I think the game's kind of transitioned that way because in college, it's, a lot of it is just spread them out, hit spots on the field. And the guys that have success in college are the guys that can just eat up space by just being big and long.
Luke, I love having you on, and I can tell that you love sharing and mentoring players throughout the league. So I want to give you an opportunity to provide some more mentorship to some young people that may listen to the podcast. What is one nugget that a young player can glean by watching film? Like, what is something in your process that can help a young player look at tape and begin to take what they see and put it into action on the field?
Well, I think a lot of it is how do I fit in my defense against this look? So you can watch tape a bunch and they're going to run wide zone, or they're going to run this pass concept, or they're going to run downhill power. And then you get into a game and it's coming, but you don't know where anyone fits on your defense, right? So then you can't play as fast. But if you line up and you say, hey, this is the formation. Okay, boom, I know the formation. I know what they're going to do. Now where does everybody on my defense fit in there? Where do I need to be? How can I get an advantage based on alignment? Where is my help? Like if we're playing quarters and they're 3x1 and a guy runs vertical on me and I have help over the top. Okay, boom. I know it's 3 verticals. I know I have help over the top. I can let that guy get a little bit high on me. So then my angle underneath him is really good. I can convert to any in-breaking route. I think a lot of it has to do with not only what are they going to do, understanding how they're going to play offense, but where do I fit in my defense in this play, especially in the run game? Like, where's my run gap? Where's support coming from? If I get a pooler, where am I spilling it to a support guy, or am I knocking it back to an inside-out run guy? I think that's one thing that is super easy to do because all you got to do is sit in a chair at the facility, watch tape, click through stuff, boom. Top run play is this. If we're in cover 3 and I have a rotation here, this is where I need to fit. This is why I need to fit there, and this is where my help's going to be. I think that allows you to play a lot faster.
No, that's excellent advice, man. We're almost done here, but a couple more questions and we'll let you run. We've talked a lot about off-the-ball linebackers, your area of expertise, but I know you obviously understand the whole picture there on defense. Another trend that we've kept an eye on is with the ball coming out quick. You see it at the college level. It's obviously made its way to the NFL. It's hard to get home as an edge rusher. And we've talked about maybe adjusting a little bit to where maybe the league had been chasing speed and off the edge, speed, bendy, loose athletes. Now it's almost and talking to some D-line coaches, they focus on just kind of rush, crush, and close. They want guys that can really kind of collapse the pocket, because then even if they don't get home, at least I'm affecting and impacting the quarterback. I'm able to restrict space and crush them. You see there's a need maybe to look a little bit different for what you're looking for on the edge, talking about edge setters and pass rushers.
We've done a good job with our defense in Carolina in that situation. You know, obviously everybody talks about Brian Burns. He's having a fantastic season. He's the prototype rush guy. He's physical, he's long, he's super athletic, he can bend. But the thing with these edge rushers sometimes is if they get too high, that quarterback, this is Aaron Rodgers, step up and then get out. And then he's out wide and he can make all plays with his arm. But when he can't do that is when he has vertical pressure inside. And we've got a young guy, Derek Brown, that's really good at that. He's not going to show up on the stat sheet a whole lot, but he creates so many problems for interior offensive linemen. He's big, he's physical, he's explosive, he's strong. And those two guys on the same side of the ball are a problem. Burns with his rush off the edge, but ultimately just like that vertical pressure with a guy like Derek Brown, where he can just eat up guards and push the pocket. And you know, all these quarterbacks, they want to be able to step up in the pocket and not get stepped on by offensive linemen. They don't want to get bumped. They don't want to get nicked. But guys like Derek Brown, they can. That's the fastest way to the quarterback, is right through the inside three guys in the offensive line. So I think there's a big, you know, Fletcher Cox can do that. Oh gosh, what's the guy? He plays in Philly now. He's a rookie out of Georgia. Jordan Davis. Just these big physical pocket pushers. Man, it makes it so difficult for these quarterbacks to step up, because not only can they not see, but that guard's right in their lap.
Of late, we're beginning to see these linebackers who are being very successful blitzing and getting to the quarterback. What's the key ingredient that you must have if you're going to be an outstanding blitzer as an off-the-ball linebacker?
I wish I could tell you the secret on it. I was terrible. as an off the ball blitzer. We had to call certain blitzes for me to blitz just to keep offenses honest, because everybody knew that TD was the blitzer. TD was super
You're
explosive
a tendency
as the
breaker.
blitzer. They would turn protection away from me all the time, and they'd just be like, "Luke, we need you to blitz. We know you stink at it. We know you don't want to do it, but we have to do it just to keep people honest." So that would be my one recommendation. Whatever I was doing, you don't need to do that. And I think a lot of it's feel. I think a lot of it has to do with how they protect. But I think a lot of these guys that are really good blitzers, they've got a great feel. They're explosive, and they weren't like me, because I was absolutely awful as an off-the-ball blitzer. TD would tell you the same thing. McD would tell you the same thing. Wilkes would tell you the same thing. They'd be like, "Hey, Luke, we're going to draw this up for you. We just kind of need you to hold the point and push the pocket. We got some stuff drawn up for the guys on the edges to make some plays. So just don't mess this up for us." I'm like, "Perfect. I can do that for you."
I love it, man. Well, this has been a lot of fun for us, man. Anytime we get you on, we enjoy it. You always offer a lot. We learn a lot, and we have a lot of fun along the way. So best of luck to you and your team. We need to have you out. After this is over, we need a recap. So we need to know how the team did. And we'll be rooting for you as you go there, man. You're the best, man. Hey, appreciate you so much. This has been a fun episode. Appreciate you guys hanging with us. Hope you've enjoyed it. We'll catch you next time right here on Move the Six, presented by Grifols Plasma Donation Centers.